Poor guy missed his interview to help a woman she was the boss. His life changed forever. Jake Miller adjusted the rearview mirror of his beat-up 2005 Honda Civic, the engine humming faintly in the early morning chill of Detroit. The city's skyline loomed in the distance, a mix of gleaming skyscrapers and faded brick buildings, a reminder of its industrial glory and hard-won resilience. At 23, Jake was a recent graduate, with a degree in automotive engineering from Michigan State, his head full of dreams about sleek cars and roaring engines. But dreams didn't pay the rent, and the $300 in his bank account was a ticking clock. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat, a text from his mom, Linda, back in Ohio. "When are you coming home? Your dad needs help at the shop." Jake sighed, tossing the phone aside. He loved his parents, but their small-town auto repair shop felt like a cage, not a future. Today was his shot, a job interview at Thompson Auto, one of Detroit's top car dealerships, known for selling high-end models to the city's elite. If he could land this, he'd be on his way to something bigger. Maybe even his dream of starting a car club, where enthusiasts could geek out over horsepower and custom mods. He straightened his tie, a cheap one he'd bought at a thrift store, and muttered to himself, "You got this, Jake. Just don't screw it up." The parking lot outside Thompson Auto was packed with shiny SUVs and sports cars, their chrome glinting under the Michigan sun. Jake parked his Civic at the far end, feeling like a kid who'd wandered into a gated community. He grabbed his resume, a single sheet of paper listing his degree, a part-time gig selling computer parts in college, and a summer internship at a local garage. Not exactly a golden ticket, but it was all he had. As he stepped out, adjusting his slightly oversized blazer, he noticed a woman struggling near a sleek black Maserati. She was tall, dressed in a sharp blazer and skirt. But her high heels were betraying her. One had snapped, leaving her wobbling as she tried to balance a briefcase and a coffee cup. Without thinking, Jake jogged over. "Hey, you okay? That heel looks like it's seen better days." The woman looked up, her expression a mix of annoyance and exhaustion. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, and her eyes, sharp and assessing, sized him up in a second. "I'm fine," she said curtly, but her next step sent her stumbling. Jake caught her arm just in time, steadying her as the coffee cup tipped, splashing a bit on his shirt. "Oh, great," she muttered, then softened slightly. "Thanks for the save, but I need to get to a meeting, and these stupid shoes are not cooperating." Jake glanced at the broken heel, a jagged mess of leather. "Hold on, I've got an idea." He knelt down, pulling a pocket knife from his keychain, a habit from years of tinkering with cars. "If I cut the other heel to match, you'll have flats. Not exactly runway material, but you'll make it to your meeting." She raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but nodded. "Fine, just don't ruin them more." Jake worked quickly, slicing the heel off with surprising precision, his hands steady from years of dismantling carburetors. He handed her the now flat shoes, and she slipped them on, testing her balance. "Not bad," she admitted, a faint smile breaking through. "You're handy." "What's your name?" "Jake Miller," he said, wiping his hands on his pants. "Just trying to help." "Well, Jake, you've got my gratitude. But I'm late, so I gotta run." She grabbed her briefcase and headed toward the dealership's glass doors, moving with a confidence that made the makeshift flats look almost intentional. Jake watched her go, then glanced at his watch. His heart sank 10 minutes past 9. His interview was at 9 sharp. "Crap," he muttered, sprinting toward the entrance, his resume flapping in his hand. The receptionist, a bored-looking guy with a buzz cut, barely glanced up. "Name Jake Miller here for the sales associate interview." The receptionist tapped his keyboard, then frowned. "You're late. They already started with the next candidate. You'll have to reschedule." Jake's stomach twisted. Reschedule? But I was just... There was this woman. Her shoe broke. I had to. He stopped, realizing how ridiculous he sounded. The receptionist shrugged, already turning back to his screen. Jake slumped into a chair in the waiting area, his tie suddenly feeling like a noose. He'd blown it. Months of applications, rejections, and ramen dinners, and now he'd tanked his one big shot over a pair of shoes. He stared at the polished floor, replaying the moment he decided to help. Was it worth it? Probably not. But something about the woman's sharp eyes stuck with him like she was someone who didn't miss a thing. As he debated whether to beg for another chance or just leave, the glass doors swung open again. The woman from the parking lot strode in her briefcase, now tucked under her arm, her flats clicking softly. She glanced at Jake, then at the receptionist. "Mike, is this the guy who missed the 9 o'clock slot?" The receptionist nodded. "Yeah, Jake Miller. Said something about a shoe emergency." Her lips twitched, almost a smirk. "Well, Jake Miller, you're in luck. I'm Sarah Thompson, General Manager of Thompson Auto. You've got 5 minutes to convince me why I should give you a second shot." Jake's jaw dropped. The woman he'd helped was the boss. He scrambled to his feet, his resume crumpling in his sweaty hands. I'm really sorry about being late. I just wanted to help you out there, and I didn't realize." Sarah held up a hand. "I don't need apologies. I need to know why you want to work here. And don't give me the 'I'm a team player' spiel. Be real." Her tone was direct, but there was a spark in her eyes, like she was testing him. Jake took a deep breath, his nerves buzzing. "Okay, real talk. I love cars. Always have. When I was a kid, I'd spend hours in my dad's garage taking apart old engines, figuring out what made them tick. I got my degree in automotive engineering because I wanted to understand every nut and bolt. But I don't just want to fix cars. I want to share that passion, help people find the right one, whether it's a family SUV or a dream ride like that Maserati out there. I know I don't have years of sales experience, but I sold 60 computers in a month during college part-time because I learned how to listen to what people need. I'm hungry to learn, and I'll work harder than anyone to prove it." He paused, realizing he'd been talking fast, but Sarah was still listening, her head tilted slightly. "Not bad," she said, crossing her arms. "You've got some guts and you're quick with a knife. But this isn't a charity. My sales team deals with high rollers people who expect you to know a V8 from a V6 without blinking. And they don't care if you're having a bad day. Think you can handle that?" Jake nodded, his heart pounding. "I can. I've been reading up on your inventory. Your top seller last quarter was the Lincoln Navigator, right? I know its specs inside out, from the EcoBoost engine to the adaptive suspension. Give me a chance, and I'll show you I can sell it." Sarah studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, Jake. You're in. Probationary period 1 month. Show up tomorrow at 8, and don't be late this time. And maybe invest in a better tie." She turned to leave, then glanced back. "Oh, and sorry about your shirt. Send me the dry cleaning bill." Jake stood there stunned as she disappeared into an office. He'd done it. He'd gotten the job not because of his resume, but because he'd stopped to help someone. His phone buzzed again, another text from his mom. "Call me. We need to talk about your future." He ignored it, a grin spreading across his face. For the first time in months, he felt like his future was right here in this dealership, surrounded by cars that made his pulse race. But as he headed back to his Civic, he couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah Thompson was going to be a tough boss, and that this was only the beginning. Back at his tiny apartment, a one-bedroom walk-up with peeling paint and a leaky faucet, Jake tossed his keys onto a cluttered table. The place smelled faintly of instant noodles, his go-to dinner lately. He sank onto the couch, still processing the day. His roommate Mike, a lanky graphic design student, looked up from his laptop. "So you get the job?" "Or what?" Jake laughed, shaking his head. "Yeah, somehow. Helped a lady with her shoes, missed the interview, but turns out she's the boss. Gave me a shot anyway." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Dude, that's like a movie plot. You sure she's not playing you?" "Nah, she's legit. Sarah Thompson runs the whole dealership. She's intense, but I think she saw something in me." Jake leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "I just gotta prove I'm not a screw-up." Mike snorted. "Good luck. Car sales is cutthroat. My cousin tried it. Said it's all about charm and closing deals. You got the charm part down?" Jake grinned. "I've got enough to get by, but I'm not here to just sell cars. I want to do something bigger. You know, like start a car club, bring people together who love this stuff as much as I do." Mike rolled his eyes. "Dream big, man. Just don't forget to pay your half of the rent." That night, Jake lay awake, the hum of Detroit's streets filtering through his window. He thought about his parents, who'd worked hard their whole lives to give him a shot at something better than their small-town garage. His mom's texts were a reminder of their expectations, but also their love. He thought about Sarah, her sharp gaze and no-nonsense attitude. And he thought about the cars at Thompson Auto, each one a masterpiece of engineering waiting for someone to tell their story. Jake wasn't just chasing a paycheck, he was chasing a life where he could live his passion every day. But tomorrow, he'd have to prove he belonged in that world, and the pressure was already building. The next morning, Jake arrived at Thompson Auto at 7:45, determined not to repeat yesterday's mistake. The dealership was quiet, the showroom's polished floors reflecting rows of gleaming vehicles, a Ford Mustang, a Cadillac, Escalade, a Lincoln Continental. He ran his hand along the Mustang's hood, imagining the 5.0-liter V8 under it. This was his element, even if the sales part was new. A guy in a crisp suit approached, probably mid-30s, with a slicked-back haircut and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You the new kid, I'm Greg, top salesman last quarter. Word is, you got in by fixing the boss's shoes." "Cute story, but don't expect a free ride." Jake bristled but kept his cool. "I'm here to work, not ride. Name's Jake." Greg smirked. "We'll see how long you last. First tip. Clients here don't care about your degree. They want confidence and results. Don't choke." He walked off, leaving Jake clenching his jaw. He knew guys like Greg thought they owned the place, but Jake wasn't here to make enemies. He was here to learn to sell, to build something. Sarah appeared from her office holding a tablet. "Jake, good you're early. We've got a busy day. You're shadowing Greg this morning, but don't let him intimidate you. He's good, but he's not the only one who can close a deal. Your first task, study the spec sheets for our top models. I want you pitching to a client by noon." Jake nodded, his nerves tingling with excitement and fear. "Got it. I won't let you down." Sarah gave him a long look, like she was measuring his soul. "I don't give second chances often, Jake. You're here because I saw something in you yesterday? Heart quick thinking. Don't make me regret it." She turned away, leaving him with a stack of spec sheets and a fire in his chest. This was his chance, his shot at a future he'd dreamed of since he was a kid, sketching muscle cars in his notebook. But as he flipped through the pages, memorizing torque figures and trim levels, he couldn't shake the feeling that Thompson Auto was a proving ground, and he was about to be tested in ways he'd never imagined. By noon, the showroom was buzzing. Clients in designer suits and expensive watches wandered through, eyeing the cars like they were picking out jewelry. Jake's palms were sweaty as he approached his first client, a middle-aged guy in a polo shirt who looked like he'd just stepped off a golf course. "Hi, I'm Jake, with Thompson Auto. Looking for something specific today." The guy barely glanced at him. "Yeah? Something fast? Maybe that Mustang over there. But I'm not sold yet. Convince me." Jake's heart raced. This was it, his first pitch. He thought about the spec sheets, the Mustang's 460 horsepower, its magnetic ride suspension. But he also remembered what Sarah said, "Be real." "All right," Jake said, stepping closer to the car. "This Mustang's not just fast, it's a beast. 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, and it handles like it's glued to the road. But it's not just about numbers. It's the feeling when you hit the gas, the way the engine roars like it's alive. You ever driven something that makes you feel like you're in a movie?" The guy raised an eyebrow, finally looking at Jake. "You sound like you've driven it." Jake grinned. "Not this one, but I've been behind the wheel of cars like it. Grew up in a garage, learned to respect what a machine can do. Want to take it for a spin?" The guy hesitated, then nodded. "All right, kid. Let's see what you've got." As they headed to the test drive lot, Jake caught Sarah watching from across the showroom. Her expression was unreadable, but he felt her eyes on him like a coach sizing up a rookie. He didn't know if he'd close the deal, but for the first time that day, he felt like he belonged here. Helping Sarah in the parking lot had been a fluke, a random act of kindness, but it had opened a door. Now it was up to him to walk through it and not trip on the way. Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his brow as he stood in the Thompson Auto showroom, the morning sun streaming through the glass walls and bouncing off a row of polished SUVs. It was his third day on the job, and the adrenaline from his first test drive pitch hadn't faded. He'd managed to get that golf course guy to take the Mustang for a spin, but the client hadn't committed to a purchase. Jake wasn't discouraged yet. He knew sales was a marathon, not a sprint, but the pressure was already creeping in. Sarah Thompson, the general manager who'd given him this shot after he fixed her broken heels, had made it clear his probationary period was 1 month, and every day counted. Jake adjusted his new tie, still cheap, but a step up from the thrift store one, and scanned the spec sheets for a Lincoln Navigator, memorizing its 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 and advanced towing capacity. He wanted to be ready for anything. The showroom was buzzing by 10 a.m., with clients milling around and salespeople like Greg, the self-proclaimed top dog, flashing their practiced smiles. Greg had been giving Jake the cold shoulder since day one, dropping snide comments about the shoe guy who got hired by accident. Jake ignored him, focusing on the cars. He loved their curves, their power, the way they represented freedom and engineering in one sleek package. But love wasn't enough to close deals, and he was about to learn that the hard way. Sarah appeared from her office, her flats still a reminder of Jake's parking lot heroics, clicking against the floor. "Jake, you're up," she said, nodding toward a man in a tailored suit standing by a Cadillac Escalade. "That's Richard Hayes, big-shot real estate developer. He bought an Escalade last week, but called this morning wanting to return it. Says the suspension's not good enough. Handle it. If he walks away unhappy, we lose more than one sale." Jake's stomach knotted. A return. On his third day, he nodded, trying to mask his nerves. "Got it. I'll talk to him." Sarah's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of encouragement. "Don't just talk. Listen. Then sell. You're not here to argue with him." Jake approached Richard Hayes, who was pacing by the Escalade, his phone pressed to his ear. The guy was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a Rolex that probably cost more than Jake's car. He ended his call abruptly and glared at Jake. You the manager! This car's a lemon. The shocks feel like I'm driving on a dirt road. I want my money back. Jake took a deep breath, remembering Sarah's advice. Listen first. I'm Jake, sales associate. I'm sorry you're not happy with the Escalade. Can you tell me more? Like, when do you notice the issue? City driving, highway, rough terrain? Hayes crossed his arms, clearly not expecting questions. Highway mostly. Feels bouncy, like it's not gripping right. I've driven Cadillacs before. This one's off. Jake nodded, walking around the Escalade, his mind racing through the specs. The 2025 Escalade had magnetic ride control, one of the best suspension systems on the market. A lemon seemed unlikely, but dismissing Hayes would be a rookie mistake. Sounds frustrating. Mind if we take it for a quick drive? I want to feel what you're feeling. See if we can pinpoint it. Hayes hesitated, then shrugged. Fine, but I'm not here to waste time. They climbed into the Escalade, Jake behind the wheel, and headed onto a nearby highway loop. The V8 purred, and the suspension felt smooth to Jake, but he noticed Hayes shifting in his seat, frowning. There, Hayes said, as they hit a slight curve at 60 mph. It's wobbling, like the shocks can't handle it. Jake kept his tone calm, channeling his garage days. I hear you. The Escalade's magnetic ride adjusts in real time, but it's tuned for a balance of comfort and performance. On curves, it might feel different from older models if you're used to a softer ride. Let me try something. He adjusted the drive mode to sport, tightening the suspension response. Feel that it's gripping harder now. The system's designed for versatility, but sport mode might suit your driving style better. Hayes raised an eyebrow, his frown softening. That's better. Why didn't the last guy tell me about this? Jake seized the opening. Not everyone dives into the tech like I do. I grew up in a garage tearing apart engines. This Escalade's a beast, 420 horsepower adaptive air suspension. It's built for guys like you who want power and control. If you're still not feeling it, we can look at tuning options or even a different model, but I think this one's got what you need. Hayes leaned back, studying Jake. You're new, aren't you? Don't sound like the usual sales BS. Jake grinned. New? Yeah, but I know cars. If you're keeping this, I can walk you through every feature, make sure it's dialed in for you. They pulled back into the lot, and Hayes nodded slowly. All right, kid, I'll keep it. But you're showing me those settings again. And throw in a free detailing. Jake exhaled relief, washing over him. Deal. Let's get it scheduled. As Hayes signed the paperwork, Jake caught Sarah watching from her office, giving him a subtle nod. He'd done it, kept a big client happy. But before he could celebrate, Greg sauntered over, smirking. Nice save, shoe guy, but one happy customer doesn't make you a closer. Watch your back. Jake clenched his fists, but kept his cool. Thanks for the tip, Greg. I'll manage. He turned away, focusing on the next client, but Greg's words stung. The sales floor was a shark tank, and Jake was still learning to swim. That afternoon, Jake's phone buzzed with another text from his mom. Your dad's swamped at the shop. We could use you back home, Jake groaned, slipping the phone into his pocket. He loved his parents, but their auto shop in Ohio was a dead end for him. He wanted more than oil changes and tire rotations. He wanted to sell dreams, to share the thrill of a car's power with people who felt the same way. But the pressure from home was a constant weight, and he wasn't sure how to tell his mom he wasn't coming back. During a break, Jake grabbed a coffee in the break room where he overheard two salespeople gossiping about him. Kid's got Sarah's favor, one said. Bet he's gone in a month. No experience, no chance. Jake's face burned, but he kept quiet, sipping his coffee. He knew he had to prove them wrong not just for Sarah, but for himself. Later, Sarah called him into her office. The space was sleek with framed awards and a view of the showroom floor. "You did good with Hayes," she said, leaning back in her chair. "He's a tough one, but don't get cocky. The team's watching you, and not everyone's a fan. Greg's been top dog for a year, and he doesn't like newbies stealing his thunder." Jake nodded. "I noticed. But I'm not here to make enemies. I just want to sell cars and learn the ropes." Sarah studied him, her sharp eyes softening slightly. "You've got potential, Jake. I saw it when you turned my heels into flats without blinking. But this job's about more than knowing cars. It's about reading people, building trust. You've got the first part down. The second, that's what your probation's for." Jake swallowed. "I won't let you down." "What's next?" Sarah slid a folder across her desk. "Tomorrow, you're pitching to a fleet buyer company looking for 10 sedans. Study the Ford Taurus and Lincoln Continental tonight. And Jake, don't just memorize specs. Figure out what they need, not just what they want." That night, Jake sat in his cramped apartment, the glow of his laptop illuminating pages of spec sheets. His roommate, Mike, was sprawled on the couch, playing a video game. "You still studying?" Mike asked, tossing a chip into his mouth. "Thought you were Mr. Car Guy." "I am," Jake said, not looking up. "But knowing cars isn't enough. I gotta know people too." Mike laughed. "Deep, man. You sound like you're in a rom-com. Next thing you'll be dating the boss." Jake rolled his eyes. "Sarah, she'd eat me alive. Besides, I'm here for the cars, not a love story." But as he pored over the Taurus's safety features and the Continental's luxury trims, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was at a crossroads. He'd stumbled into this job by chance, but staying would mean proving he could handle the pressure. Greg's jabs, his parents' expectations, and Sarah's high standards. He thought about his dream of a car club, a place where gearheads could share their passion without judgment. It felt far off, but every sale, every client was a step closer. As he drifted to sleep, the hum of Detroit's streets outside his window, Jake knew one thing: he wasn't just fighting for a job. He was fighting for a future he could call his own. Jake Miller leaned against the hood of a Ford Mustang in the Thompson Auto Showroom, the Chicago skyline glinting through the hotel ballroom's windows, where the Midwest Auto Expo was in full swing. It was his first big event, with the dealership 3 weeks into his probationary period, and the energy was electric car manufacturers unveiling new models, dealers schmoozing with clients, and enthusiasts geeking out over horsepower. Jake's tie was straight, his shoes polished, and his mind buzzing with the specs of every vehicle on Thompson's roster. He'd been tasked with manning their booth pitching to potential buyers and most critically presenting a new social media advertising strategy to Sarah Thompson and the regional sales board. The pressure was on, but Jake felt alive, surrounded by cars that made his heart race. Still, Greg's snide comments from the dealership echoed in his head. "Don't choke, shoe guy." Jake shook it off, focusing on the crowd. As he handed out brochures, a familiar voice cut through the noise. "Jake Miller, is that you? Still tinkering with carburetors?" Jake turned to see Alex Carter, his old high school buddy, grinning in a tailored suit. Alex was taller than Jake remembered, his dark hair slicked back, exuding the confidence of someone who'd made it big. "Alex, man, what are you doing here?" Jake asked, shaking his hand. "I'm with Horizon Motors now, head of marketing," Alex said, his grin widening. "Heard you're selling cars. Didn't think you'd leave the garage life." Jake laughed, scratching the back of his neck. "Yeah, well, I'm trying something new. Thompson Auto. Just started, but it's a good gig." Alex raised an eyebrow, glancing at the Thompson booth with its sleek display of a Lincoln Navigator. "Good there, top-tier man. You must have impressed someone to get in." Jake thought of Sarah and the broken heels, but kept that story to himself. Something like that. "What about you? Marketing big shot, huh?" "Big shot's generous," Alex said, leaning closer. "But we're launching a new electric SUV line, and I'm here to make deals. Hey, you still into car clubs? Remember that summer we tried to start one in your dad's garage?" Jake's eyes lit up. "Hell yeah, we had, 3 members? Me, you, and that kid who kept breaking his mom's station wagon." They both laughed, the memory pulling Jake back to simpler days, late nights, with wrenches, dreaming of custom rides and open roads. "I still want to do it, you know. A real car club. Not just for rich guys with Lambos, but for anyone who loves cars, gearheads, racers, modders. A place to share the passion." Alex nodded, his expression turning serious. "That's not a bad idea. You've got the heart for it. Ever think about jumping to a bigger player? Horizon could use someone like you, someone who gets cars, not just sales. I could get you an interview. Better pay, better benefits." Jake froze, the offer catching him off guard. Horizon Motors was a national giant, not a regional dealership like Thompson. The idea of a bigger stage, more resources, was tempting. But he'd just started with Sarah, and bailing now felt like betraying the chance she'd given him. "That's generous, man, but I'm still figuring things out here. Let me think on it." "No pressure," Alex said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Just don't wait too long. Opportunities like this don't hang around." He handed Jake a business card, sleek and embossed with Horizon's logo. "Call me if you change your mind. Oh, and good luck with your pitch later. I'll be watching." Jake pocketed the card, his mind spinning, as Alex melted into the crowd. The expo was a whirlwind, clients asking about torque dealers, debating electric versus gas, and the constant hum of ambition. Jake worked the booth, pitching a Cadillac CT5 to a young tech entrepreneur who wanted something flashy but practical. He leaned on his garage roots, talking about the car's 3.0-liter V6 and rear-wheel drive handling like it was a story, not a spec sheet. The guy left with a smile and a promise to visit the dealership. Jake felt a rush. This was what he loved, connecting people with machines that meant something. But the real test was coming. Sarah had tasked him with presenting a new advertising strategy to the sales board, a group of regional managers who didn't take kindly to rookies. Jake's idea was bold shift, Thompson's budget from traditional billboards and car shows to social media targeted ads on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube aimed at younger buyers who cared about tech and style. He'd spent nights researching, watching car influencers, and crunching numbers on ad engagement. It was a risk, but Jake believed it could set Thompson apart in a crowded market. At 2 p.m., he stood in a conference room overlooking Lake Michigan, facing Sarah and 5 stone-faced managers in suits. His PowerPoint was simple, just a few slides, with data and mock-ups of video ads featuring Thompson's cars in urban settings, driven by people his age. He took a deep breath, channeling his dad's advice from the garage, "Own it, even if you're scared." "All right, folks," Jake started, clicking to his first slide. "Thompson Auto's sales are strong, but last quarter we dipped 8% with buyers under 35. Why, they're not at car shows. They're on their phones, scrolling Instagram, watching YouTube reviews. Our competitors like Horizon are hitting them there with slick ads, and we're stuck with billboards nobody sees. I'm proposing we reallocate 30% of our ad budget to social media. Targeted campaigns, influencer partnerships, short videos showing our cars in action. Data says this could boost engagement by 20% and bring younger buyers through our doors." A manager with a gray mustache leaned forward, skeptical. You're saying we ditch car shows. That's where we've always met clients. Not ditch, Jake said, keeping his voice steady. Supplement. Car shows are great for enthusiasts, but they're not reaching the 25-year-old who's financing their first SUV. Social media's cheaper and hits harder. I've got a plan for a TikTok series, Real Drivers, Real Stories, featuring our Mustangs and Navigators. It's authentic, and that's what sells today. Sarah watched silently, her expression unreadable. Another manager, a woman with sharp glasses, chimed in. You're new, right? What makes you think you know our market better than us? Jake's pulse quickened, but he thought of the Escalade pitch with Hayes, how listening and adapting had won him over. I'm new. Yeah, but I'm part of that market. I know what gets my generation excited: authenticity, not just flash. I've sold computers, worked in garages, and I'm learning this floor every day. This isn't about me knowing more, it's about reaching people we're missing. The room went quiet. Sarah finally spoke. Bold Jake. Risky, but bold. We'll discuss it. You'll hear from me tomorrow. As the managers filed out, Jake caught a flicker of approval in her eyes, but he wasn't sure if he'd nailed it or bombed. That night, back in his Detroit apartment, Jake sat on his couch, Alex's business card in hand. His roommate Mike was sketching on his tablet, the TV droning in the background. So, you gonna jump ship to Horizon? Mike asked, not looking up. Jake sighed, tossing the card onto the table. I don't know. Thompson's tough, but it's home. Sarah's giving me a shot to prove myself. Horizon's bigger, but it feels, cold. Like I'd be a cog, not a person. Mike snorted. You're getting sappy. What about that car club dream? You gonna do that at Thompson, or what? Jake stared at the ceiling, the hum of the city outside, grounding him. That's the plan. Start small, maybe host meetups at the dealership after hours. Get local gearheads together, swap stories, show off mods. Thompson's got the space, and Sarah might go for it if I keep delivering. His phone buzzed a text from his mom. Dad's hiring a new mechanic. You sure you don't want to come home? Jake's chest tightened. He loved his parents, but Ohio felt like a step backward. He typed back, I'm good, Mom. Got a big opportunity here. Talk soon. He hit send, feeling a mix of guilt and resolve. The expo had shown him what was possible, a world where his passion for cars could be more than a job. But Alex's offer lingered, a temptation to leap into the big leagues. Jake wasn't ready to decide, not yet. For now, he'd focus on proving himself to Sarah, to the team, and maybe even to himself. The car club was still a dream, but today it felt a little closer. Jake Miller stood in the grand ballroom of the Detroit Marriott, the clink of champagne glasses and murmur of conversation filling the air. The Thompson Auto Year-End Gala was in full swing, a glittering affair packed with clients, dealers, and industry bigwigs. Jake's suit, a step up from his thrift store days, felt stiff, but he carried himself with a new confidence. It was his 4th week at Thompson Auto, and he'd just led his first major project, a social media campaign that boosted showroom traffic by 15% in 10 days. The success had earned him a nod from Sarah Thompson and a grudging respect from some of his co-workers, though Greg still shot him icy glares across the room. Tonight wasn't just a celebration, it was a chance to solidify his place at the dealership and pitch his dream of a car club to Sarah. But as he adjusted his tie, his phone buzzed with a text from his mom. Linda, your dad's at the hospital. Minor heart scare. Please come home for New Year's. Jake's stomach dropped. He slipped the phone into his pocket, the weight of family pulling at him as he navigated the crowd. Sarah approached her black dress, sharp and elegant, a far cry from the flats she'd worn after Jake's parking lot fix. "You clean up nice, Miller," she said, handing him a sparkling water. "Heard you closed 2 deals this week. Not bad for a rookie." Jake grinned, though his mom's text lingered in his mind. "Thanks. The social media push helped. Got a couple of TikTok fans in for Mustangs." Sarah nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "You've got a knack for this, Jake. But tonight's not about sales. It's about connections. That guy by the bar, regional VP for Ford. Impress him, and we're in for a better inventory next quarter. Don't screw it up." Jake followed her gaze to a man in a pinstripe suit laughing with a group of execs. Before he could respond, Sarah leaned closer, her voice softening. "You know I was like you once. Fresh out of college, no experience, just a love for cars. My dad owned a tiny dealership in Flint. Everyone said I'd fail, but I kept at it. You've got that same fire. Don't let it burn out." Her words hit Jake like a spark. He'd always seen Sarah as a tough-as-nails boss, but this glimpse of her past made her human. "Thanks, Sarah. That means a lot. Actually, I've got an idea I want to run by you. A car club right here at Thompson. Not just for buyers, but for anyone who loves cars. Locals, modders, kids, dreaming like I did. We could host meetups, show off our inventory, build a community." Sarah raised an eyebrow, considering. "A car club risky, but it could draw attention. Write me a proposal. If it's solid, I'll give you a budget to start small. But don't expect me to hold your hand." Jake's heart leapt. "I won't. You'll have it by Monday." Before Sarah could respond, Alex Carter, Jake's high school friend and Horizon Motors marketing head, appeared holding a whiskey. "Jake stealing the show as usual," he said, clapping Jake's shoulder. "Sarah, you've got a keeper here." Horizon's still waiting for his call, though. He winked, but Jake caught a flicker of seriousness in his eyes. Sarah smirked. "He's ours for now, Carter. Don't poach my talent." As Alex laughed and moved on, Jake felt the pull of his earlier offer from Horizon. It was tempting, more money, a bigger stage, but Thompson felt like home, and Sarah's belief in him was worth more than a paycheck. He excused himself and approached the Ford VP, pitching Thompson's vision with the same passion he'd used on the showroom floor. The VP listened, nodding, and promised to follow up. Jake walked away, adrenaline pumping, feeling like he was finally finding his stride. Later, as the gala wound down, Jake stepped onto the balcony, the Detroit skyline sparkling under a winter sky. His phone buzzed again, another text from his mom. "Please, Jake, we need you." He sighed, guilt gnawing at him. He loved his parents, but Ohio wasn't his future. He dialed her number, bracing for the conversation. "Jake, finally." Linda answered, her voice tight. "Your dad's okay. Just a scare, but he's working too hard. We could use you at the shop. Why are you so set on staying in Detroit?" Jake leaned against the railing, the cold air sharpening his thoughts. "Mom, I love you guys, but the shop's your dream, not mine. I'm building something here, selling cars, starting a club, making a name for myself. I'm not running away, I'm just chasing what I want." Linda was quiet for a moment. "You sound like your dad when he started out. Stubborn. But, okay, Jake, just don't forget us." "Never," Jake said, his voice firm. "I'll visit soon, I promise." Hanging up, Jake felt a weight lift. He'd made his choice to stay to build, to prove he could be more than the kid from a small-town garage. Back inside, he found Sarah by the bar wrapping up a conversation. "Proposal by Monday," she reminded him, then paused. "And Jake, that fire I talked about, keep it. It'll take you far." As Jake drove home in his battered Civic, the city's lights blurring past, he thought about the past month. Helping Sarah in that parking lot had been a fluke, a random act of kindness, but it had opened a door. He'd faced skeptics like Greg, demanding clients like Hayes, and his own doubts, but he'd kept going. The car club was no longer just a dream, it was a plan one Sarah might back. And the lesson hit him hard. A single act of kindness could change everything, and sticking to your passion, even when it's tough, could lead you exactly where you're meant to be. Jake parked outside his apartment, the engine ticking as it cooled. He wasn't rich, wasn't famous, but he was building something real, a life driven by purpose, not just a paycheck. The car club would be his first step, a place for people like him to share their love for cars. And as he climbed the stairs to his cramped apartment, he knew this was just the beginning. Kindness, grit, and a love for the open road had brought him here, and they'd carry him forward wherever the journey led.